It's so nice to talk to you today. So we are introducing Alison from Revo Consults today. So from Revo Consult today. It's chaos.
It's the joys of working from home. I think the whole family wants to be involved in this conversation.
Lord, I'm sorry, but I have somebody ringing the doorbell, hence the dogs are like going bananas. This is what happens when we work at home.
Yeah.
So I'm really sorry about that. Okay, so let's start again. So I'm introducing Alison Coates from Revo Consulting. We're going to chat to her today as we have with other ladies from the inner circle. So Ali, why don't we get started straight away and we can talk about what actually inspired your business name?
Oh, thanks, Jill. I love that question. So yes, so my business is called Revo Consultant, and what inspired the name was I knew that I didn't want my business name to be my name. I knew that it needed to have its own brand, not be just about me, Alison Coates. And I really grappled for about 9 months. It took me a long time, played with various ideas. And then I have to say, I stumbled upon somebody else's page or business name overseas, and she had taken a really long word and shortened it. And I absolutely loved the idea of doing that because it meant that you could then use the word for many different meanings. And as you know, my business is all about consulting. It's about coaching, mentoring. So it's got to do with change. So I knew my name had to have something around change and motion and fluidity, or just being in movement. And the word revolution and revolutionary came up, but it was too long a word. So Revo, R-E-V-O, are the first 4 letters of the word revolutionary, because it's all about creating that momentum for change and then sustaining it. But for me, change is also about drawing a line in the sand, making a decision and moving forward. So there's a slight, it feels revolutionary to me. It feels like it's got a bit of energy about it. And then when I was describing my name to the guy who built my website to me, who's an amazing graphic designer, Nick, and I was drawing on a whiteboard, and I went through this long descriptive process of how I got from revolutionary to Revo, and I drew a line, literally just by accident. I meant to draw a line drawing a line in the sand. And I drew it exactly between the R, the E, the V, and the O. And he jumped out of his seat with excitement, and he said, "You've got it." So it was the slash was actually a bit of an accident, but I love it now. So it's about change. It's about making decisions. It's about moving forward. So that's where Revo comes from.
Gosh, what a journey to get to a business name, but what an exciting journey. And it all sort of just hangs together. It's just great.
Yeah, and there's so much you can do with the R and the E. So you can reimagine, you can reevaluate, you can redesign. So it's the next version of my website. It's going to be a little bit more interactive with using some of those ideas. But I use it a lot now because it's a lovely prefix to have with so many of your descriptive words.
Perfect. We're going to keep a good eye on that, and you'll have to let the group know when your new website or when you do your revamp on your website.
Yeah.
So let's talk about who, we all know the importance of knowing who you want to serve, because otherwise your messaging is just higgledy-piggledy and all over the show, right? So we all know that it's very important to understand who you want to serve and why you want to serve them. So tell us a little bit about who your ideal client is, who it is that you want to serve and want to work with, and why.
Yeah, great. And it is such an important question, because we've all had to do work with clients that potentially don't fall inside that camp of our ideal or the buzzword, the niche, our niche market. And doesn't it just feel frustrating, and it feels like you've got to work harder when you're working with that group of people? And it's not a judgment on them, because they'll be somebody else's ideal client. They'll be somebody else's perfect fit. I love to work with leadership teams. I love to work with executives. I've always, throughout my career, I was just fortunate enough that I ended up working a lot with senior managers. So as a management consultant myself, I was often working with teams of people where I was working at an executive level. So it's been my experience. And even as a project manager, I was put on quite senior projects. So I know I love to work with leaders and executives. I love to work with them because I think it's a very, and you'll know what I'm talking about here, because we've just recently shared this experience with a client that we worked on, the two of us together. It can be a very lonely place. So for me, I feel like it's you kind of like providing them with a little bit of a lighthouse, really. But also, having been part of a senior management team myself for quite a few years in my career, if only I knew now what I knew then what I know now, from the whole emotional intelligence space, from how to coach people. So, I've retrained. I'm no longer in that management consulting project manager space. And so I feel like it's a way for me to give back, because I had an amazing career. I had a great career. I loved it. It wasn't that I was unhappy with what I was doing. It was more the company that I was working for at the time. So my ideal grouping of people would be leaders and execs. I also love to work with graduates. I think graduates have got that hunger about them. And I love to see people who are on a mission, who've got energy about them. And my ideal, if I had to say my ideal industry, in fact, my ideal industry is to work back into that consulting, project management, program management space. I think that in terms of my own business, there's a few years before I can break into that space. So until I do, I love to work with manager-owned businesses, very delivery focused. So you'll see a theme there. It's working with businesses where they are themselves consulting, managing, being delivery focused for their own clients.
Yeah, and you're right. That project that we did work on, it really highlighted the fact that leaders of especially huge big teams and dynamic teams are often very lonely, and they don't know how to deal with that. So it's something that perhaps we aren't taught, and even as entrepreneurs, it's something that we have to learn, because we often work in isolated spaces, so it can be very difficult. So
absolutely. Even for us, like working for ourselves, and especially since COVID's come along, I've had to work really hard at still networking with people just to keep my own levels of sanity. I know that I draw my energy from other people. It's just who I am. So it's very important for me to still maintain contact with others. Yeah.
And so, Ali, to look at some of the things, your biggest lesson in business so far has been?
Sure. My biggest lesson. My biggest lesson since starting my own business, which I think is more relevant for the inner circle here, is really just owning up to the fact that I didn't know a whole load of things. I had to really put my ego aside and ask for help. And it doesn't mean, when we ask for help, it doesn't mean that we're not accomplished. It doesn't mean that we're not successful in our own rights. It just means that we're trying something new for the first time. We have to get better at reaching out and asking for help. And also, we were speaking about it today on the training with Diane about our money mindset. And it took me a while to understand that to spend money on my own development as a new business owner was the most important investment for me. So I tried for pretty much a year to successfully start my business on my own. And it was really only when I paid a business coach last year to help me. I had never had to go and get leads before. I had never had to put together my own financials before. I'd always worked for big corporates where you had lots of people there who would do all of those things for you. So I think my biggest lesson was really just to say, it's okay to put your hand up and say, I don't know how to do this. Who can help me? And it's amazing what happens when you actually have the courage and vulnerability to ask that question, because suddenly the doors open and information just actually comes at you too fast. But yeah, so that was my biggest learning really when I started my business.
It is a huge thing when we start our own businesses. We have such high expectations, and so you wonder whether you're on the right track oftentimes. I'm sure that's how you felt sometimes. Certainly how I felt. Wonder whether you actually, are you in this, or do you need to jump ship, or I mean, there's all of that, and getting your tribe is one of the most important things. People who will stand by you, build you up, and lead you in the right direction. It's
absolutely. There's a beautiful quote that says, having the right circle of women around you is your biggest life upgrade. And that is so, so true. And I think if anyone is listening here today that has been in corporate, you'll know what I mean when I say at corporate, we are very performance driven. So it's all about how have you performed. And when you run your own business, it's not about your own personal performance so much as it is about the business performance. So you have to remember that you are not going to know all of the jigsaw pieces to put together. And even now, still, I don't know all the answers. So I'm still getting the answers from the experts. I'm an expert in what I can do. I'm not an expert in setting up a business, in running a business. I still need help with those aspects of being an entrepreneur.
cool. So, Ali, when the shit gets real, and let's face it, when you're running your own business and you haven't been doing it for very long, and you certainly aren't an expert in all the things and the jigsaw puzzles, you might have dropped one and you didn't even realize you dropped one. It's missing in action completely. So when the shit gets real, what do you do to pick yourself up?
After bursting into tears.
So after that, and a couple of wines after that.
So I had an example just last week, and actually, as it turns out, it wasn't my mistake. It was a mistake of the software that I was using, and the guys have actually admitted that there was a fault that they needed to fix. So I created a landing page, and rather than when people filled in the form, rather than my invitation only going to the people who filled in the form, my invitation went to my whole entire database, and it was completely irrelevant to like 75% of my database. And I cried. Anyway, after crying, what do I do to pick myself up? I go outside. Even when I wasn't working from home, I would get out. I would get out the building. I would go and get some fresh air and walk I'd march fast. I'd just get out, get air going through my lungs, breathe, do something physical. Now at home, it's quite cool. If I need to, I can jump into my swimming pool, or I can take the dogs for a walk around the garden. I leave my desk. I close the office door, I close my laptop, and I actually just give myself a break and give myself that 5 minutes, half an hour, whatever, to just breathe, regroup, and then I will come back to my desk. I find if I sit at my desk and stew, I can't think straight. I can't see the wood for the trees. I lose perspective. So for me, it's really important to take a step back. I run and I love swimming, and when the gym was open, so I do quite enjoy being active, but I find that even if it is 5 or 10 minutes just to get outside and get that fresh air and some sunshine, it makes the world of difference.
It really does. You just need to get away from your own self sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if we could talk about the one piece of advice that you would give another female entrepreneur or somebody who's sitting on the fence and maybe thinking about joining this crazy world called entrepreneurship, what piece of advice would you give that lady?
Oh, that's a really great question, Jill. Now, I can't remember who said this, so this is not something that I've come up with, but it really has been back of mind for me for so many months now, and that is that there is no such thing as competition. There is only community. And I think the sooner we can get our heads around the fact that there is no such thing as competition, there's only community, we are going to develop much stronger collaborations. We're going to be looking for those opportunities to uplift each other, to work alongside each other. We don't always have to go it alone. Yes, we do. But how wonderful is it to share that experience with other people and build that network? So it took me a long time to really feel comfortable with not feeling like any other woman who was a coach in the leadership or executive space was my direct competition. I now look at them and I think, gosh, we are here as a community of coaches, as a community of people who are sharing similar messages with our own way of saying it. We've all got our own uniqueness. So that for me would be my one piece of advice, is just to remember that there really isn't any competition. Even for a town as small as Durban, there really isn't any competition. For anybody sitting on the fence, what's stopping you? What is it that's stopping you? So if your heart and your soul is on the other side of a fence, what is stopping you? And if it's something that you've got control over, then make a plan. Make a plan and make it happen, because there's nothing worse than spending your day and your time and your energy in a space where your heart and soul are not invested. So yeah, that would be my piece of advice.
That's very cool advice. I think we all bring our own unique flavor to the community that we serve, and so that's why it ties back to knowing who you want to work with, because not everybody is for everybody. And so you will work with people that you are comfortable with, and they will work with you. So yeah,
absolutely.
That's great. Thanks, Al. So if we talk about you joined the Inner Circle and the coaching with Diane Lindemann this month. Do you want to give us a little bit of an insight into, first of all, what encouraged you to join us, and secondly, any insights that you have into that environment for ladies who are wondering what it's all about and whether or not it would be worth it for them to in fact join?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of different things. I first met Diane, I think it was in, I'm almost certain it was either Shingler Connect or in Chanel's group, Build Your Business Online. I can't remember, it was one of those two groups. Diane, you'll be able to correct me. And so I've known a little bit about Diane for maybe 18 months, 12 to 18 months. And so there was obviously that curiosity. I think curiosity's, it's interesting. It can get you into trouble, but it can also lead you down some really, really advantageous paths. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. And yeah, so I'd heard enough about it also from yourself, because you and I have worked together before. And so it was really just curiosity that I wanted to see what this Inner Circle was all about. And I joined at the perfect time, because I joined just when Diane was talking about the 6 roles we play in our business, and that kind of like blew my mind. It really did, because I hadn't really thought about my business in terms of looking at it like that. I just know that I'm like ridiculously busy all the time, ridiculous. But am I really spending my time and my effort in the right place that's going to be revenue generating for me? So am I, because it's like, it's fun to be in that creator role all the time. It's great. It's like being a Picasso, isn't it? You can just carry on and have fun, but can't just create and create. At some stage, you've got to get out there and network and promote and do other things. So it was really, that was a perfect day for me to start and for me to join. And I've learned quite a lot actually from Diane and also from the other ladies in the group. So it's been great so far. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it has been great chatting to you, Al. So if people want to connect with you, where are they finding you?
I'm loving the LinkedIn space at the moment. So anybody who would like to connect with me, I'm in LinkedIn as Alison J Coates. There's a J in the middle, but I guess I can put my link down below.
Yes.
And my Facebook and Instagram handles are Revo Consultant. And I'll put those down below. But anybody who wants to link with me on LinkedIn, I'm really enjoying that platform over the last couple of months. I'm finding it full of very relevant and business-oriented conversations, which is what I'm enjoying at the moment. So thank you.
That's great. Ellie, thanks for taking the time to chat with
me.
It's
a pleasure.
I want to say this morning, but look at that. We're already in the afternoon. Holy moly. And I will chat with you later in the week.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, ladies. Those that were able to join us online now for the live. And please engage with Alison when you see her on the group, when she pops things in. Please engage with her. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Al.
Bye.